So I want to show you a number of ideas that I've come up with that I believe will help you grow your landlording business. These may be things that you've considered in the past, and maybe you haven't thought of these things ever. But if you listen all the way to the end, I believe you're going to find a number of really great tips that are going to help you make more money and grow your landlording business. So what do I mean by this? You may not currently hire a landscaper. In fact, you probably leave all of that to your tenant. And my question for you is, how well is that working out for you? Do you find that after 12 months with a particular tenant, you have to re-sod an entire yard or redo the landscaping that you paid $1,000 for previously? If that's the case, then it's probably not a good idea to leave this to your tenant. Instead, what you could do is simply roll that fee into the rent itself. Remember that the outside look of your property is a huge, huge marketing issue for you. And the higher the value of the outside look and the aesthetic of your property, the more money you will make. That being said, you don't want to pay this out of your own funds. You want this to be covered by the rent. And then offer it not by mentioning, oh, by the way, I'm charging you more money because I'm paying a landscape company to beautify the property. Instead, you can offer this as an incentive to your tenant and say, by the way, you're never going to have to mow the grass again. When you live on my property, I take care of everything. You might find that you're going to have happier tenants who have one less thing to worry about, and you're happier because your property is in better condition and it's all taken care of for you, and your property's all the better for it. Number two, you may already be doing this, but many landlords do not manage their own properties. It's been said that landlording is a passive income sort of business venture. Maybe, but if you have the time and the ability to manage your own property, why are you paying somebody else to do it for you? Consider what it costs you to pay somebody else to do things that you're already pretty good at or that you're fully capable of doing. It may come to a matter of time, and if you simply don't have the time to do it, that's understandable. Think about whether or not this is simply something you can handle on your own. If it is, you will save a lot of money. Number three, you're going to want to shop your insurance. When was the last time you actually did this? When was the last time you called up your insurance broker and said, I would like to know if there's a better rate out there for me? If this is something you simply haven't done, you're leaving money on the table. Stop doing this. In order to grow your business, you have to reduce your costs wherever you can. It doesn't make sense to get the same product for a higher rate if you don't need to. And the truth is, most people don't think about this because, well, the insurance cost just comes right out of my mortgage. And while that may be true, that's still coming out of your pocket. So take the time every once in a while and shop around for the best insurance rate for the exact same insurance that you're getting now. You may find that you're paying hundreds or thousands of dollars over what you need to pay. If that's the case for you, the moment you make this change, you have just made money. Number four, are you always raising your rent? Now, some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, Ernie, how could I do that? That's so evil. It's not. It's a regular business practice. Every year, prices go up. The rate of inflation is not a new thing. You might be hearing more about it lately, but it's been around forever. And so if you're not raising your rent at least 5% every year, you are leaving money on the table. You may find yourself in a situation where you are currently on a month-to-month tenancy with your current tenant. I would suggest that you lock them into a rate, but don't do that unless you also raise the monthly rent. Now, 5% may actually be too low for you. You may actually be needing to raise your rent up to the market value. But you can presume, if you've done this already, that after 12 months of a lease, it is perfectly appropriate for you to raise your rent 5%. Let me give you an example. If you're charging $1,000 per month for rent. After 1 year, 5% is $50. This shouldn't be painful, but if you don't do it, over time, you've lost $600 in a given year by simply not taking this step. While everything else is rising because of inflation, you are not making enough money to meet that demand. And so you're paying more for items and services, but you're not getting more out of your business. Make sure that after every 12-month period, you are increasing the rent at least 5%. Make sure, if you haven't done it already, that you've raised your rent up to the market value. Landlords, I hope you are getting a ton of value out of today's video. We welcome you to comment below. Give us a like if this is something that you are enjoying, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We welcome you to join us on our Facebook group, Texas Landlords, on Instagram, and soon on TikTok. Look for us. We look forward to seeing you there. Number 5, enforce your pet violations. Many of you have leases that state X amount of dollars are owed if you violate the pet provision in the lease, but so many of you don't enforce this. There's a couple of problems with this. Number 1, you are still leaving money on the table that belongs to you. Don't ever do that. But number 2, if you're not taking this money and you're not enforcing prohibitions in your lease, you're likely also going to incur damage from the pet. So make sure that you are enforcing any pet violation terms that are in your lease, making sure that if that pet is causing damage, you are protected for that. By not enforcing these provisions in your lease, not only are you losing money, you are causing harm to your property. These are things you shouldn't do. As a good business person, make sure you are protecting your most valuable asset, which is that property. Number 6, this is another one that landlords, for whatever reason, get wrong all the time. Either A, they're just not charging enough for late fees, or B, they're charging way too much. It's important for you to know precisely what your limits are. In the state of Texas, for a single family home, you're probably going to be maxed out at about 12% of the rent. If it's a multifamily of more than 4 units in a given building, then you're maxed out at about 10%. Why is this important? Well, if you know that you're maxed out at 12% for a single family home and you're not collecting all that within the first 7 days of the month, you're waiting way too long and your late fee just isn't significant enough to make sense. You want to collect every time a late fee is owed, and you want to collect the maximum amount that you can in the shortest reasonable period. Here's some math for you. If you have a late fee in Texas, you cannot charge it until day 4. So on day 4, if you're charging 3% of the rent, and then on day 5, another 3, on day 6, another 3, and on day 7, another 3, you've reached the 12% maximum rate that you can charge as a late fee for a single family home. You've also waited a full week before you've gotten rent. At this point, you need to strongly consider issuing a notice to vacate. But even if your tenant does pay by day 7, you've maxed out the most you can get for a late fee, and you've established a firm, bright line for that tenant that paying rent late just isn't acceptable. And if a tenant will pay late, it's up to you as a landlord to enforce those fees. By waiving the fee month after month after month, or charging way too little for it to be prohibitive, you are simply making a bad business decision that makes you lose money. The opposite is true when you enforce it, and you enforce it to the maximum. If you're going to make money in this business, it's because you have utmost respect for your own lease agreement. Number 7. This one's a tough one, and a lot of you don't like this. Even I don't like this one very much, but it's an absolutely necessary component in the landlording business. You have to evict sooner. This is one where you're going to make more money because you're going to lose less money. Too many landlords wait way too long before they issue a notice to vacate and begin the eviction process. I understand that things go sideways and sometimes tenants really need help. But if you're waiting more than a week before you issue that notice to vacate, and you're waiting more than a month before you begin the eviction process, you are losing a ton of money. Think of every month that goes by as thousands of dollars just flushing down the toilet. Look, I mean, have this in your mind. Make sure that you can visually see $1,000 flushing down the toilet, because this is in effect what is happening the more you delay. And eviction in the state of Texas generally runs between 30 and 45 days. That's a month and a half of lost rent. And most evictions end in the justice court, but many of them go on to the county court on appeal. That could mean another month or 2 or 3 of lost rent. So any delay you have in beginning this process is just money down the drain. Number 8, hire quality contractors and hire them repeatedly. Landlords try to save money either A, by doing the work themselves and doing it poorly, or by hiring just anybody that they find at the lowest possible rate. This is not a money-making idea. Instead, this will end up costing more in the long run. And here's why. When you have people that you trust who do work that is excellent, you can charge a higher rate for your rent. When your house looks like garbage, you can only charge garbage rent. But when your house looks pristine, when it is excellent, you can charge at a more excellent rate of rent. Remember, your rent house is your most valuable asset, so you should care for it with professionals who know what they are doing. Additionally, when you hire the same contractors over and over and over, not only are you likelier to get the best rate possible from them, but you're getting someone who you trust with your most valuable asset. This ends up making money for you in the long run, whether it's because you can continue to lease your property at a high level because you are putting out a high quality rental unit, or if you decide to sell, you have property that's in tip-top shape at all times because you have maintained it properly with excellent craftsmanship. Number 9, landlords, collect damage costs. If your tenant negligently breaks something in your property, it's okay for you to charge them for it. It's okay for you to bill them, especially if this is explicitly stated in your written lease agreement. If they're responsible for why the door is suddenly not on the hinges, or they're responsible for those walls that somehow are now punched into the living room, they pay for that stuff. Get someone there to make the repair and then issue a bill and let the tenant know that they are responsible for these costs. Too many landlords either A, don't repair during the tenancy, or B, if they do repair, simply deduct that amount from the security deposit. But this makes you less secure landlords. That deposit is there for things you can't address while the tenant is still around. Instead, if the tenant is still around, issue a bill. Say, this bill stems from your negligence, your misuse of the property, and when the next rent payment is submitted, you are collecting the fees for those repairs. Remember, you are not required to repair things that are done by the negligence or the affirmative actions of your tenants. If they broke it, they pay to fix it. By you charging this to them, you are spending less money of your own to maintain your property, and you are maintaining your property at its highest level. This always makes the most money for you. And the last one, number 10, you have to anticipate things before they happen. But the only way you're going to be able to do this is by showing up on the property. That passive landlord who shows up at the beginning to hand over keys and at the end to get those keys back is losing a maximum amount of money because he or she cannot anticipate repairs that grow to an astronomical size simply because they didn't catch it soon enough. I always recommend that a landlord go onto the property after the 3rd month and after the 9th month of any 12-month lease. And the reason for it is if you can catch something early, you can fix it early and hopefully prevent things from getting out of hand. By only visiting the property after the tenant has left, you waste time on some issue that, if addressed sooner, would have cost you hundreds of dollars as opposed to thousands of dollars because you simply waited. This happens very easily with, for example, air conditioners. If the first time that air conditioner filter is replaced is after the tenant has left, you've put so much stress on a unit, and I say you because you have every opportunity to go in and inspect it. By not inspecting it, you've put so much stress on that unit that you will end up paying to replace it sooner than you would have otherwise. However, for those of you who show up after the 3rd month, you can easily see whether that filter has ever been changed. And if it hasn't, you can change it yourself. And when you're back 6 months later after month 9, you can see if that filter was changed again. And if not, you can change it. And each time the tenant is in violation of your provisions of maintenance, for example, for the AC, you can issue a notice of default to make sure that it is getting done on a regular basis in the future. But if you're not there to inspect it, if you're not there to catch it before it turns into a big problem, it turns into a big problem and you're the one who's paying for it. Landlords, I hope you've enjoyed this week's video, and we've got tons of videos on our channel for you to enjoy. But if there's something more that you are interested in watching, YouTube seems to think that this video right here is perfect for you. I welcome you to watch it and everything else we have on our channel because I know it's good stuff for you. Until next time, landlords, happy leasing.